Let's get into it. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to My Whiskey Den, your favorite public access whiskey review show where craft whiskey is king. I'm so excited. I just threw whiskey on myself like
baptizing yourself.
Kind of baptizing myself. I was thinking that Richard guy that always has to swirl it around and toss it out.
Richard Patterson.
Sir
Richard Patterson.
That's true. He was knighted. That'd be kind of cool. I think we should come up with something for knighting people. But I'm excited. I'm excited because I get to complain this evening. That's what we're gonna do. It's our complaints in the industry evening, basically. But you'll notice that's my first complaint. Mitch is in here.
Yeah, people who say they're going to show up and they don't. They're like, it's just like the people that say that they're going to ship you a bottle of whiskey and then they never do.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, it's been almost 2 years.
I'm just reading about, we weren't that late. The problem is you're on East Coast time. That's right. The problem, Kevin. You're on East Coast time.
It's an Irish start time.
Oh, yeah. That's fair.
It'll start when it starts.
It will. Before we go any further, and we get even people complaining about the show before we start, should we tell them about the Bar Cart Co-op?
I'm all in. I'll do it.
In? Okay.
Here we go. We are proud members of the Bar Cart Co-op, which is a collection of friends who create content for the whiskey and other distilled spirits public. The Bar Cart Co-op YouTube and Facebook pages have information about upcoming and past special shows, which happen about every quarter. From blind tastings to distiller panels to discussion of special collaborations and the usage of unique grains, the Bar Cart Co-op has educational and fun episodes for your enjoyment. There is an upcoming show, just so happens, for the Bar Cart Co-op. Wednesday night, the 7 bad words of whiskey and music. I have George Carlin's words memorized and their cadence as I have had since I was probably 12 years old. I'm not going to say them right now, but maybe later in the show we will. But yes, the show will be coming up live this coming Wednesday at 8 p.m. And that would be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 7 p.m. for those of you who are in God's time. All right. Distillers Talk is the oldest show in the group, hosted by Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. It's a conversation with people from distilleries and distillery adjacent, getting into the weeds with their interviews. New episodes arrive at the end of the work week. If you don't think Distillers Talk is nerdy enough, check out One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. This is a show where Alan Bishop answers any questions about distilling and often puts them to the test. It could be individual grains, mash bills, equipment, and methodology. New episodes come out randomly and sometimes rapidly, so subscribe on all of the available places, but especially YouTube.
Yeah.
If you have ghosts, you have everything. There's a show about spirits and paranormal among us, as well as the unexplained and the spiritual. Subscribe to this one on Spotify to get all 3 seasons. And Bourbon Turntable, where they mix the love of music with the love of whiskey. Kevin and Drew have a conversation with musicians, writers, distillery folk, and common folks like us about, you guessed it, music and whiskey. It releases every Wednesday on all your platforms, including YouTube, where you get all the visuals.
Ooh, visuals. That makes it better. You get the man behind the voice then. It's kind of like seeing Barry White.
Not the man bun behind the voice. I almost called him Tennessee's Barry White, but I didn't think that I should. I seriously was going to say that.
I think that might be the new moniker.
Yes.
I think I like that quite a bit. All right.
Anyway,
Yeah. Excuse me. Let's we do have some complaints. I put a post out there because we do have some things that frustrate us in the industry. Some basic, some a little deeper, and we asked people out there, what do you get upset about? And we have some guests and other people that put up a few things as well too. So we're gonna get into this. What is Spencer sipping on some Buffalo Trace this evening?
Wow.
Wow. Well, you know what? We all most of us started on Buffalo Trace at one point, and I'll be honest, some of it's not bad. I'm still happy to drink it.
Yeah.
Uh,
it's solid.
yeah. Like we say, we don't completely shit on all the big brands.
Yeah.
Effective corks. Oh, and they don't fix it? They don't fix it because that is a big problem.
Because they might have bought a lot of corks.
Yeah, but
Think
still, at
about
some point, you
it.
gotta cut your losses, though. At some
I
point.
do not disagree with that at all. Defective corks are a pain in the ass because you really only need to hang on to so many of them, but you do have to hang on to all those little possible different sizes of them. And I'd say, yeah, I know they get a nice cork and tradition, et cetera, but even when a synthetic cork fails, it is still superior. If it separates from the top, that synthetic cork is usually 99.9% of the time still intact, and you can use it on as its own thing to put back in there. Find another synthetic one to pop in there. So yes, that is irritating. It's irritating that you got a cork and you'll go to uncork it and you're like, this thing's just spinning wildly here, which is one of the many reasons that I do the paraffin wax around all my stuff.
I'm gonna say, or it just like rips off right away. Like you can feel it, like
it's
starting to twist. It's tight, and all of a sudden it just. Whoop.
Yeah, it looks like this cork's getting gooey.
And you mentioned normal corks versus synthetics. How does the chat feel about the synthetics? I feel like that's almost all I would probably use if I were in the business today. I think I would lean really heavy that way unless there was an issue with attaining them. Then I
Ain't
might,
nothing wrong about a screw top either.
That's true. That's true. No, that's true too. A little dribble.
Yes, dribble.
Well,
assuming we're talking about the whiskey, because we are all getting older.
Might have to fix my light here a little bit.
Yes, the Sexton is the worst one out of pretty much any bottle.
Oh, by far.
There's a very specific pouring technique for Sexton, or you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, well, I don't even know. It's even if you do have a specific way, it's kind of different.
No, if you do it if you do it and you rock them together, it's extremely effective.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I'm like, you almost have to have it touching to not have it spill everywhere.
Affix cup to bottle, tilt together. Otherwise, it's going all over the place.
So,
yeah.
All right. Well,
so there you go.
First issue corks out of the way.
Should we go with the list that you procured from the folks first?
Yeah, I'm going to spin it on the corner here 1 second. I'm going to pull the light a little bit closer. I just feel like it's dark in here on mine because it's sadly summer's fading away.
You should be smoking a cigarette in the dark.
I can open the windows and do something like that, maybe. It's a possibility. Yeah, sure. We can go to what some of the people thought here. Let me get up to this. All right. Oh, our own Emily Chambers, transparency and sourcing. Very simple. Obviously, something we harp on here.
NDAs.
Okay. Well, that's fair. There are, in some instances, there are NDAs where you cannot say, not all. You can't say where you got it from. But even at that point, there's on your end, and this is a marketing and advertising thing. You don't have to be deceptive about it. You know what I mean? You can still say, bottled and whatever.
Okay.
I mean, you don't have to take that ground if you don't want to.
Well, there's also, as an example, to carry it further. It's one thing to just say or act like it is yours when it's not yours, or act like you did something to it when all you did was put it in a bottle. You picked a barrel, or maybe you didn't pick a barrel. Maybe you just received barrels and then you blended them together, and that's really all you did. You just batched them all. You didn't do it as oh, let's these two together be really, really good. But then you do something like constantly say that you made it, tell everybody you made it, go on shows and tell people that you made it, belittle people who tell you what you made, you didn't make and isn't very good. And then someone like your dad says outwardly, nah, we source this stuff, and then you continue to say that you make it. And really the largest piece of type on your label says homegrown. And it's not good. And anyone who's seen us, we've talked about it. Boons.
It's true. Give me 1 second. I am going to switch the.
You go for it.
Light a little closer here.
But there's no reason. There's no reason that you can't be honest about it, because there is no shame in it. No one's going to assume that you are up and running because, for one, between money and the government and everything else logistically that it takes to start a distillery, there's no way you're going to open the door and you're going to be selling 5-year-old product in 6 months. It doesn't happen. Most people aren't stupid. Unfortunately, some are, and they will fall for your shit. And my what would you call them? Former state mates in Iowa, Templeton Rye, who got in trouble because they didn't disclose it. They acted like they sold it, and then on the episode of Whiskey Cast, when he's talking to him, and the guy's like, "Yeah, well, we bring it back, and then we add the flavoring to it," and he's like, "You do what?" And they were like, "Oh shit." And they got further busted on it. And they are going to have a much larger uphill battle when they are putting their own stuff out there because of it, because people are going to be questioning it, and they're going to have more to prove to themselves and everybody else when they actually put their own stuff out there. Not to mention, I did this last weekend have some real bootleg Templeton Rye that I haven't had in a while. Man, the real bootleg stuff is really freaking good. So
okay, well, we're going to keep along the lines like this one. This too is a little bit of labeling, the produced by and how you don't get it wrong. I agree completely. I believe if you're going to have that on there and have it be a part of the label, then you have to have, how about this, at least what state it's in, and you don't even have to use its name, but you have to use the DSP from where it was distilled. Okay, that's if someone wants to dig, they can dig, and that's fair.
And I do realize that TTB is probably honoring some discretion that people have, and et cetera, whatever. But what's wrong with just having distilled for us by, bottled at our location, blended and bottled at our location?
Because
no shame in that.
No, and to me that would be more honest, because there's too many of them that, let's just go with MGP on this, that are taking barrels or batches and small to medium batches, blending it, and then charging 4 times the amount for the exact same product, and saying, "Hey, it's great," and they're not, at this point, they're just telling you that too, and everyone's, maybe it's my fault because I understand that it can be delicious, at 10, 10 to 14 years old. I'm not arguing on that.
Yeah.
But
or
when
at
you get
3 years, if you ask Buzz or Drewst.
Yeah. Well, they do
that's the right way. I know
different.
They are fully transparent, and they are,
they alter that's like that's basically having a contract with someone, contract distilling at that point, because you're going to do what we ask you to do, but then we're going to put our spin on it. And is there anything wrong with going to someone who's made a very quality rye for the last 30 years, if not longer? But you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's argument in that. Yeah, and they were the biggest and easiest one to get it from for a while. So
Yeah. Which, and I know we're going to go down the list of other people's stuff, but it's a good segue into one of my complaints.
By all means.
Is people that proclaim that they love rye whiskey when really what they mean is they only love MGP rye.
Oh, that's true.
Either because they don't know any better, or because, well, it's because they don't know any better, basically. I mean, they haven't tried other stuff, and then you get them like some a good. Not that MGP rye isn't good, but a different rye, and they're just like, ugh. But they like the 95.5, which again, there's a lot of it out there. It's not all identical, but there's enough of it out there that people just like, oh, I love rye. Well, they only love this. So anyway, that's one of my complaints, because I think they've not given, talk about rye renaissance and everything else, but they really aren't giving other ryes a fair shake. And I'm not saying that it's the greatest in the world. I'm not saying it's not either, but like people that like that, and then they try something truly unique and historical, like the 3-chamber, and they're like, no, not good. Or like, you don't get it at all.
Well, look, I'll be honest, there might be a segue into more of a craft flavor or a grain forward profile, or in that case, just like the oil mill that it is. That's different. It's odd that people would. How about this? I think you're getting to the point where I don't want to say I have an issue, but you've been into whiskey for 30 years and you haven't really stepped outside that box. You're saying you love it. That I don't want to say that grinds my gears, but if you get very boastful about it, then it's frustrating.
Anyway, all right, we got other ones to go into before ours.
Okay, wait, a quick one here. Booker's being over 100 and allocated. I'm gonna say Booker's is not. I don't think 100 is bad for Booker's. For what it used, from when I used to have it, and it used to be like 65, 70 anyways.
Yeah. They did say several years ago that it was going to go up. They said that, and then it went back a little bit, and it slowly went up. So am I surprised? No. Considering what it is, though, is it worth it? Debatable, because it depends on the release.
Exactly.
Some of them, like Country Ham, damn straight.
Yeah.
Country Ham was the last great one that I had, and that one was pretty killer.
But it being allocated, that's
ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a little bit much. I always like this, like, whoa, that the lie of allocation. We just don't have enough. It's like, well, you had enough for like how many ever years. You knew where the boom was going. You want to know how I know? Because you just built a new distillery. So
but given how they make it, I mean, there's just things. There's given how they make it, the everything around it. There's a reason they're not making a whole lot of it. So I understand that because of its uniqueness.
I'm just saying,
it's not.
Forecasting.
Yeah.
Forecasting for the future.
Anyway, all right.
Well, hold on.
Are you pulling up some of the others?
I'm gonna go back in here. Let's.
What? Okay, What are you drinking though while you're doing this?
Oh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
My son Gavin went out rummage sailing with Grandma and Grandpa, and he had some winnings, and he told me this is all new to me. His puchka. So apparently he's got a little bag of winnings from the gambling he does with Grandpa and Grandma when he's over there, and he found a little whiskey barrel at a rummage sale for $2. And we filled this up with a whole bunch of the leftover samples I had here. So I'm drinking a blend that's slowly marrying together in like a little infinity barrel. And we'll add to it as we go from other stuff. But right now it's I'm going to tell you most of the stuff I have here is a little higher proof, and you can tell that right away. Not that there's a bunch of other flavors, but you can tell when you're heading in, and only from the drink or two I've had here at the moment, that yes, it's probably all about 60% alcohol.
Nice.
If not a little bit kickier at this moment, but it's got
I'm
some
doing
really
a
nice sugar and, oh, sorry, go ahead. What? No, I'm not.
no, he's just on a roll. Why? Because and to be fair, Kevin, I interrupted Pat in what he was doing because he was going to pull up some pre-submitted gripes. So it is my fault. But yes, we did mention the special live episode of Bourbon Turntable, proud member of the Bar Cart Co-op, Wednesday night. And yes, we're looking forward to seven bad words of whiskey and music.
Okay, tomorrow, Wednesday night. Does that mean you're going to have to just say all? I hope you have to recite all of them. And
there's a reason that Alan's on it. Which, if you've not followed Alan on Instagram at the Alchemist Cabinet, he did a lot of those. You know how I know you're not a master distiller, and then he would give his reason for it, but then he would also go have his rant about people that used certain words, like smooth, or other ones. It's very funny and entertaining. Anyway, I am sorry to interrupt you once again. Go ahead. Please pull those up because there's some very good ones.
By all means, I will slide back to this. Let's bring up Ben Holman had one. The biggest problem with the industry as a whole is price gouging. Which is the problem with secondary markets. Now, this I agree with, but there's two different levels here. I call it the local level, and then like on this, the secondary. I almost don't tend to address the secondary anymore because I don't even care about the ridiculous bullshit hype. And to me, that's getting to the point where everyone's just trying to make $1 off it and they don't care about it. So secondary market to me kind of is gone. Now, I do take frustration and total agreement with the fact that price gouging is nasty. And it sounds dumb, and a lot of people are trying to say, oh, it's not happening because there's increases in everything that's gone on. Very true. Very true. There are increases that have happened over the pandemic and stuff. But there's a known whiskey recently that had the exact same mash bill. One released a 5-year version of it. Not to say they aged the same or tasted the same. One had a 5-year and it was, I believe, released at $64.99. Same one, it started a year later, hypothetically. Then that's questionable, but is like $139 for almost the exact same thing. Now, is that price gouging? In my mind, I believe there is something there happening. Doubling the price of things is kind of shady. As far as that means, yeah, I am talking
allegedly.
Well,
depends on who you ask. I'm indifferent to it, but it depends on who you ask.
Yes, there are some people
that brings up that. That taps into one of my gripes. So okay, here's my thing, and I'm not condoning the secondaries or whatever, but what I will say is there are places allegedly that you can go hypothetically on the internet and join a group that would be a local group of people who engage in local trade. And there would be rules amongst those that say, hey, prices for local to local should be cheaper than nation or worldwide because you're not having to deal with shipping. And it's more about helping the local people out before going outside. And that exists. But there is also the local groups where people will say, hey, I'm at such and such place and they put out a whole bunch of this for anyone who's looking for it. Sometimes people will pick things up for people that they don't know and be good neighbors and help them out. There's also times where they will preemptively tell people, it's like, hey, this place right here, they've got a whole bunch of these, but here's the problem with their prices. And they'll say, this is what their prices are. So people will basically avoid it because it's like, well, I'm not going to drive out there because yeah, they've got Buffalo Trace, but they want $70 for a 750, or they've got Eagle Rare on the shelf, a whole bunch of it, but it's $100 a bottle, ridiculous stuff like that. That I think is I think is good. People engaging in local trade, that's, I mean, it's still the secondary market.
Yeah.
So, so you can take whatever you want out of whatever problems with it. Because I don't think you can say, well, this is the good secondary, because it's still the secondary. Secondary is secondary, and whether you engage in it is your choice, and whether you want to stick local or don't do anything at all, or go national, where people will get a bottle that you just bought at the store because you can get it at your store, and people national can't, and they're selling it for 5 times or more, and you're like, holy shit. That's part of the problem. I mean, it is one of the problems, and I don't want to get in, to that too much, but it is a problem for people that, like, you might really want to have, because maybe it's been years since you've been able to try Weller 107. Well, good freaking luck finding it, but and yeah, Richard, you have a very good point.
Yep.
I prefer to buy stuff
markup
at the distillery. I would prefer to buy bottles from a distillery than have to go through all the other BS and everything else.
Well, and this gets to the markup and price gouging at, like, say, a local store.
Yeah.
Because they're not, who's not getting that ridiculous bump up when you go in there, because there are some things you'll see, and rarely are they priced appropriately. They're behind the counter. But let's take Weller, when it started along this crazy path of whatever, when something was $20 and now you're going to get it, you can't even find it, and it's 80 or 100, and it's not. But there was part of that in there that was price gouging by the store owners, bumping up the price every time, because it doesn't go up that much considerably in that time frame.
Yes.
There's other
and I
ones
think that retailers that do that, it's a problem, and people should tell other people that you're price gouging, but because you're basically participating in a legal secondary by doing that. And someone will go along there, buy it, like a traveler or someone with an expense report to fill out. They might go and get it because, like, oh, I'll buy this for customer or whatever, because they can, and they can get away with it. But and it's capitalism. I get it. You can charge for whatever you want to in your store, but people also reserve the right to not buy from you. And you can have that dusty stuff up on your shelf at an inflated price to lure people in to buy other stuff. Again, that's your choice. But I have a choice to not shop with you. So, and I exercise that right quite frequently.
But how would you feel about this on this side of it, since everything is trackable to an insane amount, and that's true, and you all know it's true because we just mentioned that in your Amazon or TikTok thing listening in. It's already started pulling up ads for some whiskey and stuff right now. So, I don't know. There's a way that if they price gouged and sold a bottle, say for $300-400 over, that's fine. Guess who gets 150 of the over the MSRP cost? Where you split it 50-50 then.
Yeah, not the distiller though.
Well, no, that's what should happen though. What I'm saying is, like,
it should.
If we're selling and you want to sell at $30, $50, $300 over because I have it, and then out of the distillery doesn't, but the distillery, anything over MSRP, which is what it really should be sold at, boom, 50-50, distillery and the people on the end, because the distributor already did what he needed to do to make money at the $69. So right out of the way. No reason to give them any more, because a lot of times they shouldn't even be in it in the first place. So that would be a great way to handle that. And if you're going to be doing that, so then it's getting back to them. And it, like I said, that is a trackable thing, the way how connected everything is now. That's plausible, especially since a lot of distilleries and smaller ones aren't everywhere. You know what I mean? You're not in 50 states.
Which brings up a short gripe, which we've talked about many times. Problem with distribution. I'm not going to carry your stuff because I can sell a whole lot of X instead of your little thing that I just don't know what to do with and I'm not going to try. And that is your fault as a distributor. All right. Let's go. Let's do some of these other people before I go down my list because I'm gonna...
Hold on here, Rich is just whew.
Yeah.
That's a steep price. Only because I remember when that amount would get you some pretty amazing scotch. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about,
and it might be good. It might be good, but when it appears that this is your business model, it's anyway.
Let's get back to the chats here. The banners.
Yes, get back to those other ones.
It was we have our very own Spencer. He's got a long one here.
That's what she
said. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I have experienced this firsthand. I have witnessed altercations firsthand.
It was longer, and I just wanted to get the second half on here because what he gets to is important. And understanding that marketing, blah, 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 when it's fully this blatantly a lie, yes. Totally agree, horseshit. But what's worse is exactly what he said here is when it's like in a tasting room where it's someplace this should not happen. From someone
if you are on distillery grounds giving a tour, going around there, you should not say anything that is incorrect. And if you do, you should expect somebody who respectfully does tell you, hey, this is actually is incorrect. Because if you're going to go one place for your source of information, it should be at the distillery, and every distillery employee should know it. Now, sometimes like you could be in the middle of doing something and you might say barley instead of wheat, once, and then turn around and say it the right way another. Everybody makes those little mistakes. That's fine. But when you're blatantly wrong with your information at the distillery, you should get that right, and you should expect to do that. What is I would say arguably worse, because you're out in public, you should have your best face. When you are a brand rep and when you are saying things at a festival or tasting with thousands of people, and you are saying things that are 100% not true and doubling down on it because you don't want to admit that you're wrong, that's a problem.
That's two things. There's one here. I'm going to back up because this comes into something like we did hear this from someplace, and my friend Matt, who had never gone on tours and stuff, was with us when he was with the Ewalds and Kevin and I. He didn't realize what was going on, but he knew something was up when all of us snickered at the same time, or had that gasp, like, But I think he did okay afterwards, finding out that we told them that he was not the only sweet mash in the country, because there was 20, 30 other ones. But like we said, it's something. But that's sometimes when you're talking to someone, it's the way you handle it afterwards. Finding. Go ahead. Finding out something.
Oh no, totally. And when you are equipped to provide the right information to somebody, when you've got the credentials, and you can say, I'm an executive bourbon steward, I'm a member of the Statement Thief Society, I'm a big deal. That last part I added. But when you can do that and you are 100% right, and you could also say, things like, I am a writer, I'm in the industry, I do reviews or whatever. It's like, I'm not some dude who rolled in off of his Brodozer truck, hopped out with my tight bedazzled pants, and set my flat build cap on the center console while I walked in with my sunglasses, not on my eyes, but on my head. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting off on a different tangent, but you should, if you're working at a distillery, you should be correct. You should absolutely be correct. And I think the distillery should make sure that those employees do get all that information 100% right.
Yeah. Well, like you said, you understand people get stuff wrong. Sometimes it's a lot to take in, especially if you're new. But this is going to segue into my brand rep side of things, which you did bring up. and you were starting to tangent on, but it is, I feel, for as big as the industry is, and there's little schools and little niches and things to learn here and there, and as many brand ambassadors as there are, I feel like there should be a school or a weekend class for them, because the quality of the overall brand ambassador in whiskey and spirits, and that meaning not the owner of the company and not the distiller, even though they may wear that hat sometimes and kind of jump over that, but a real brand ambassador, it falls kind of short.
Yeah.
And maybe that's being taught, and the expectations of what they're supposed to be getting, but from such big companies in industry, I find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah, and they do tend to hire people who are easy on the eyes. And we did for a few years, there was an event that came through here, and God, I hope it comes back again. That was called the Lefroy Kilt Crawl, and it was Beam Suntory put it on, and they had Beam Suntory. I can't even talk. Beam Suntory reps that came around. They were all young and good looking, and both the men and the women were wearing their tight polo shirts. And then they also had one of the brand ambassadors on Mount Rushmore, as far as I'm concerned, Simon Brooking from Lefroy, and he was wonderful and fantastic. But all the little reps that were running around there were these very good looking young kids. And they were fine, but they just kind of they didn't really do the work. They were just kind of there. But a lot of places that we've gone, and I'll say specifically the last place that we went to in a big event, which was at Distill America, there were a few booths manned by people who were just there to pour stuff, and they couldn't answer any questions. And none of them looked like an oaf from Kansas City. they were all younger and attractive people, and you ask them a question, some of them would try, and other ones would just say, I'm just the person pouring stuff, and I think that you need to have those people. They should have a knowledge of your product so they can answer questions. And furthermore, some of the ones that are working there that are answering questions should also learn to answer honestly, and don't double down on comments and then get into arguments with people because they think that they're right. Like when they're saying, "Oh, we like was in the chat, we've always distilled our own product." Well, everybody knows that that's not true, because the owner of your company has said multiple times how they are not. Now it's sourced and blended, etc. But arguing the point that to act like you're dumb, and then to even further go on there and say a comment like, "Well, you don't know what manufacturing is like," to someone who also works in manufacturing, and and then it just that was one experience, but there's been multiple times where at an event, or you have people that go there, we're the brand reps. That's cool. Did you paint those shorts on you because half of your ass is hanging out and it has absolutely nothing to do with what you're trying to pour in the glass? Well, it has nothing to do with it. And I don't care about your boobs. I want you to pour me the whiskey and answer my question about it. I don't care what's in your shirt. And that goes for the men and the women.
Well, I agree with you. There are some, it's on the larger marketing scale. That has always been a traditional thing, an angle to take. I mean, think of beer in the last 50 years has leaned heavily into that style of marketing. Yeah, I saw that.
I picture Richard with his shirt unbuttoned here going, "You liking the car?" Anyway.
Oh, hey, Richie, good to see you. Um, I forgot where were we? Because I got off track there.
Complaining about brand reps, and then another thing on the flip side, then
Wait,
you
but I'm
see
talking
people
about, but those
public.
I don't count some of those people as a legitimate brand rep. You know what I mean?
Are they wearing branded apparel while they are working there?
See, some of the people you're describing don't always wear the apparel associated with the brand they are representing. They, but what
Maybe not always.
okay, I agree. I don't like that, but I'm narrowing it down to legitimate brand reps. Like you get there, they're wearing a shirt, they're paid by him. They're the guy you've seen at 2 to 3 places. He's going out to bars to sell it to people and try to give samples out and get hype going on. Or those are the one, or the stores doing samples. You know what I mean? It's depressing because they're almost as bad as some of the other people you're talking about.
Yes,
where they're just hired for nothing. Basically,
well, or like at a store tasting, like got someone there, and you're like, oh, okay. Do you can ask right off the bat, do you work for like your? I won't say it because it's a small place and they'll be coming on, but they came to town and it's like, do you work for them? No, they were just hired to be the one to struggle through what they had to say about each of the products that they were pouring at a liquor store to sample. And it's like, okay, you are representing this company right now. You are representing and you're having trouble getting through this stuff. Do your homework, number one. Number two, you should be able to answer questions if somebody asks you. Or you should say, you know what? I'm new with this, whatever, but here's where you can get your information.
Yeah.
It's only going to make you look better and you're going to impress me and make me want to try your product or buy it.
And how about this? Like you're talking about that. I'll go back to when we first met Jolie at Spirits of French Lick, and on their website, they had a cut sheet for every one of their whiskeys that had everything you want to know. So I just said, thank you. Because I don't have to ask you anything. Boom, I'm done. I don't have to nag you. I have all my answers. And you know what? So would a brand rep then. You'd have that sheet. You could read it beforehand. You could get vaguely caught up. 15 minutes before you go in, you could sound semi-competent.
Exactly. And it was accurate. And I remember her being when we first met her, she was very adamant before the show about, she's like, well, yeah, this is our product. We want to represent our product, and we want you to have the right information about it. That's why you get the accurate information. That's why you're going to get to use our logos. So you're not trying to, you're not going to put our logo up and it's crappy or it's the wrong version or all that stuff, because that's your brand. And that's all about marketing and being a brand rep. So you're representing that brand.
Yes.
Act like you give a shit.
So I'm at a point where, like I was saying, I'm surprised there's not a weekend school or a weekend class at Moonshine University or something. You know what? I have the 2 people I want in there. I'll take Stephen Fant and Fred Swanson, because I think between the 2 of them, you encompass almost every side of what you would want to try to convey to people about the product between those 2. I don't want to call them different because they're both very, very good at their job. One might be a little more story orientated, but they're both very proud, knowledgeable of the product, not only of their product, of the industry and everything that's going on around it. It's not just someone that knows a little bit about it. You're the person in the room that knows what's going on. There you go. 2 people right there. They should have a weekend class in Madison or Kentucky. And if you own a business and had a rep, you should go learn, goddammit. Because it's a little embarrassing. Yes. Sorry, it is. And like I said, I'm not talking about people that are the owners or the people that work there that know about it, but it's your job, man.
Yeah.
It's your job. So, all right. Okay. Oh,
let's do David's multi-part, because I think it's a very.
Oh, well, Peter's upset because he says he's recovering still. That's
I want to hear about that later.
I don't think it was that bad.
That's what happens when you call Pat for a 911, Peter.
I didn't. We didn't drink that much. He did leave pretty abruptly at one point. Oop, go back to the banner. So here, all right. Now, David's. All right, Dave's got a few things on here. All right, the non-reciprocal shipping. Easy, total agreement. This,
Yes.
for me, goes into the same realm of colleges. You know, they have reciprocal states that you could go to a different state and not pay extra taxes. I'm kind of the point, like, why am I I'm in the U.S., why am I getting charged extra if I'm going to, I don't think that's fair. And I feel the same way about this.
You should allow it, because you know what, you are helping your local economy, you're helping your state, and there's not, in my opinion, there's not anything that elected officials care more about than money. And how do they get their money? You get their money from taxes, which are theft, but they get their money from taxes and taxing people, and they love their taxes, and they love using that and enforcing rules so they can tax and get more money. So guess what? Ship. Let them ship, because you will sell more product out of your state, which means more taxes coming into your state.
Mm-hmm.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, and getting tax and tax and tax. I mean, that's a problem. It's like buying a car. I got taxed when I bought the car, and you're going to tax me every freaking year that I own it for having that car, which I think is total bullshit.
Or
as property that I own. I already own it.
You want to get in that the car thing is here it was originally you're only supposed to be paying the registration fee or like a big high gas tax. It wasn't supposed to be both. Now you have both. So now you're flat both rates on that.
Yep. Pay taxes. It's like Ticketmaster, convenient fees and everything else. And then we have our property tax and stuff we do. Anyway, 100% totally agree with David on that. And I think it's bullshit. And I would have thought that some more states would have pulled their heads out of their butt, especially at COVID time, when they realized that you could keep businesses open and you could generate income for local economy, state economy by shipping products out. Yes, you'd like to get the tourism, but guess what? You ship that bottle to someone, they're like, you know what? I want to visit that place. And then they're going to come and visit that place. And they're going to buy more bottles because they don't want to pay shipping. They're like, well, I might as well buy 4 here because otherwise I got to pay to ship 4. And then you have problems like Texas, like, oh, no, you can only buy 2. But you got to bring your aunt, who can't speak and she's on a respirator, so that way she buys 2 bottles, or you limit everything except for the party stores, because God forbid,
Anyway. I'm going to come back to David's thing here, but Peter brings up, I got to be on the right here. This is true, but I have had things in the past where you used to get double taxed for that. You used to pay the 7 and the 5 depending upon where you went and sold it, but that was originally got rid of that. You could bring something like that back if you wanted to, because really that's not the end of the world if you're paying to get it shipped to your house. But
you shouldn't. You should pay that state's tax rate. Yeah. When you buy from that state to ship to you, you should pay for that. If you're getting taxed, you should pay that.
I would agree with that because that's where you bought it from, no matter
exactly.
What it to. I would agree with that. No, that's not the way it is, but yeah, that too. You should be able to sell it.
Yeah.
But yes, I think whatever state it comes from, because that's the one. If you purchased it there, would get it. Whatever.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. David's point: auto shitting on craft brands by consumers. That was one of mine. Is that people that use the word craft in a derogatory way about whiskey, and they use it because they've had either a bad experience or they're just too much of a snob, or their own shit doesn't stink, or whatever their problem is. But using the word craft in a derogatory manner to describe a whiskey is stupid, and it really shows your ignorance. And that goes for people who write about it. That's people that are so-called experts, and people who are, let's say on YouTube or Instagram for the money. We ain't, and never will be. But doing that is so stupid and shows how narrow-minded that you are. It's absolutely ridiculous. So you're like, it's craft. It's craft.
And if you want to get into the subtext of craft and be like, well, it didn't mean this is. I can argue that it was intentionally, the wording was set up for smaller distillers because that's where innovation was going to happen when that was set up. So that's what craft means. And even if you say craft and you don't like it, this is just a terminology word for people, because sometimes they hear things and they want to automatically say, I don't like that word. I don't like smooth. I don't like this. I don't like it. You make it artisanal then. Does that make you feel better than craft?
That's
Same,
worse.
same fucking thing. You know, it's your descriptor for something being handcrafted, hands-on, paying attention to details, rather than then I'll say it Heaven Hills. It's going. It doesn't matter if we have a hole in the water pissing through, spewing how many gallons
Blend
of
it out.
whiskey. Oh yeah, we don't care about what it's pissing
Yeah.
out because it doesn't pay for us to fix a problem of that nature. So let it leak.
Yes. Craft or small distilleries are doing far more innovation than the big ones because they can and because they have to, and large ones can't. And this is not a negative thing against like a Heaven Hill, but Heaven Hill is working on scale. They're working on scale of knocking out product. They're not going to stop what they're doing and switch things over because it's a major undertaking for them to do that. They have got to continually feed this equipment. And if something happens in it and there's a whole bunch of bad barrels, they have the volume that in the scale that they can blend out problems
and time
or
to
figure
wait
out something else to do it. Craft distillery does not have the you ruin 2 barrels, you got a problem in a small craft distillery. And maybe you're able to do something with it, or maybe not. And maybe, unfortunately, you did put those out after you'd only been open for about 6 months. And maybe that's why somebody complained about it. But you know what? You kind of have to expect that if you're going to go to a small distillery that you've never heard of and you're going to try their stuff, you're rolling the dice because it's not Elijah Craig. It's not Henry McKenna. And it's not Buffalo Trace or any of these other ones. It's different, and you have to expect it. But to use that as a bad word to describe them, it just shows how stupid you are.
Well, and when a bulk of the people use the word as craft to describe it as green notes, wood notes.
Yeah, it's not 10 years old. It's craft.
Well, I think what they're meaning a lot of times with that is they're saying that they're getting notes from barrels that are 1 or 2 that you would typically get from 1 or 2 years old, because you still get those and a lot of other brands even at 2 years old. But you get a little green note, a little bit of that wood, a little bit of a sharper alcohol note, a little bit of more of a tannin note sometimes, as people are trying to work out some of the issues or how to tame a smaller barrel than 53 at points as well too.
Yes,
it's, I don't know. There's a few other things going on with that. So
yes,
yeah, the auto shitting on. Well, how about this? And craft, because you were saying that bigger distilleries haven't. A lot of bigger distilleries have kind of moved up and started to include unique offerings, little changes, little differences. Let's go it sounds weird, the kosher releases and some other stuff from Buffalo Trace. Some other places are starting to dabble, or they have an experimental lab going into it. But why? Craft and smaller producers were eating up the market, and they were starting to take away from them. And proof in the fact of that is that your big companies are eating up your craft distilleries right now. The low to mid-size ones, not all the ones I would necessarily agree with per se, but they're ones that could scale up and are very appealable to the masses. So
yes, and so his other one on there on tickle jokes.
Yeah, I'm okay with.
I'm 12, so I'm going to make jokes. But
okay.
I will say on a couple of different interviews over the last couple of years, and I think one of the times was actually, she might have done it in the presentation for Distill America 2021. Nicole Austin, who she's like, hey, look, I make them too. We'll get them out of the way, and she's like, because she's like heading the thing off. One of the several reasons that I like her, other than she's very, very smart. She's an extremely talented person, whatever. And she's like, look, there's a joke here. Okay. So go ahead and do it. Now, some people that overdo it, just like anything else, you overdo something, it's, I get it. Cause I would get tired of them too, but I'm 12. I will make tickle jokes myself. But I'm not going to do it like all day. There is a limit where it's just not funny. I'd give them that. So
Okay.
And what was his last one? Front piece of Chris, take Chris. I mean, I think that's all across the board, but I think there's some people who really think that they are curing diseases. And they don't want, they just can't take any criticism on it. But you got to understand, you're making a product that people, it's not a pair of pants that someone's buying and they're trying on. You're making a product that people consume, and taste buds are different. And so you're going to have people that it just ain't their jam, and so be it. I mean, okay, a lot of people don't like the Flintstone vitamin part of Dickel, really don't like it. And that's fine. It's fine. They're not going to buy it. No big deal. You're not going to change their mind, but you could change your product, and maybe you are going to change your product, but not for that reason. Maybe you're changing it because you realize that's a product of something else. That's kind of, onset over time with this and how it's going. But anyway, I'm getting kind of rambly, but the people that are thin-skinned about it, they really need to get over themselves more than anything else. And producers that are out there, it's like, well, we put out this product, blah blah blah. You made whiskey. It might be good for some people, it might be great for some people, and some people might hate it. You made whiskey, okay? You didn't come up with a revolutionary MRI that doesn't cost anybody anything and is going to save lives. You didn't. You made whiskey.
That's a whole different thing. But that's image and marketing of stuff today, where you're supposed to seem like it's the greatest thing in the world, and everything's new and exciting, and no one's ever done it before. Problem is people can look into that and see that most of it's been done. And I don't mean that poorly. I just mean at this point, with this many distilleries out there, there's that many people trying different things, trying different grains, finally getting into stuff that to be revolutionarily groundbreaking is difficult.
Yes.
Damn near impossible. Okay, hold on here. We can get rid of that. There was some other things happening back here I want to get back to. I can't. Jesus Christ. Okay, chat, you're screwing it up. It's all the way back there. I'm going to go back. I lost it. Yeah,
well, I don't know about that one, especially in Jackson County, Missouri right now.
I can't find the other one to get this off. All right, well, whatever.
What are you trying to get back to? Because I got them.
I'm going to go back to this one for a split second. I did try this one at Paradise North. They had a new one, a month old. Had some oats in it. Kevin Rose will know this. A couple other people. It's like that one Reverend Tom Green's whiskey. Yeah. Very, very similar in hitting that realm. Especially that was a month, and Reverend Tom Green's was only 9 months. Very similar. I don't want to say all over profile, but had the legs to see where. Very intriguing to see where that goes. Very, very excited. That was a good mash bill off the bat with that. Yeah, see, Dave's. I don't. Oh, because that's a banner. I thought. See, problem. Too many people. Too many places to throw stuff.
Got it up there. All right.
It's gone now. Finally. Sorry about that, everyone.
That's all right. Should we start going down our list?
Sure. We can go down our.
All right. I'll go. All right. So I said, craft in a derogatory way. Here's another one. Bros and bro talking whiskey. It's very irritating to me. I realize that it's a culture to its own, but the bro talk and the unnecessary acronyms that you're coming up with, so it either sounds cool or so you can't get busted online for mentioning stuff, go blow it out your ass. The people that take acronyms and they pronounce those acronyms like they're a word. Single barrel, it's not called a sib. Bottled and bond, it's not bib. It's like, don't say this shit so you can sound cool because you're like, oh, bro. Take your stupid bedazzled jeans and your flat bill cap, roll them up tight, shove them straight up your ass, go stand in line for Blanton's while the big kids can go and get real whiskey. Sorry. That is a problem.
When you're doing that, I mentioned this before when I heard of this problem in the past, and I automatically every time, and even at and I love sitting in line for something fun and great. It's a neat thing to do, but part of me sees a flashback to South Park's episode of Bebe's boobs. If it's where all the guys revert back to being a little more animalistic, and,
Yeah.
and I feel like there is, though everyone's supposed to be friends and everything like that. There is a lot of going on at some events and other things. It's just fucking ridiculous.
Yes, exactly. It's so anyway. It's a problem. Another one. Well, it was brought up there before about someone mentioned in the chat talking about reviewers. Along with that, reviewers that pander, and that can be some very large people. People like Fred. He panders on stuff because you know what? People like. I'll say as an example, people like Fred Minnick have a voice, and they could say things to push back on Buffalo Trace for what they have done for people standing in line, what they've done for secondary or causing secondary, and these other problems like that. They can push back on them, but you know what? They won't do that because then he won't get his samples of the antique collection every year. He's not going to get them straight from the distillery, and other people won't either because they might complain a little, but they won't call Buffalo Trace out on it. They'll talk about the other people on it, but Buffalo Trace hasn't helped it out. But there's people like that. That's one example of it. But the people who are pandering to producers who will always go, and I'm not saying that antique isn't good whiskey. You know, it's good whiskey. Is it the greatest whiskey? No, not necessarily. But they will pander to that because they want to be able to get their samples. They will pander to other things because they want to get their samples. Oh, there's a new release. They're going to fawn over somebody with the new release on something because they want to make sure that they get their samples. They want to make sure, that all the Bardstown releases, I got to make sure I get all the Bardstown releases. So, you're going to be a little more favorable about Bardstown stuff than you will about other things. And I think it's wrong. You should be honest. If you don't like it, you don't like it. You shouldn't be worried about whether or not you're going to get your samples of it. You shouldn't be worried about whether you're going to be welcomed with open arms and get private tours or anything like that because it's bullshit.
And I think there's been times where I think we've been honest with people and it's paid off more so because they believe that you were telling them the truth about something, even if they might not agree with you. I've liked most of Alan's stuff, and there's one thing they had some Anison, and I just told him, fucking, you need to stop doing shit like that.
And now he'll never come on the show. Thanks a lot,
Matt. He won't. He probably won't. but I mean, there's just, like this, like, I'm sorry. This is not, and he knows that that's not my jam, but I'm, at least I'm honest enough to say that, no, not this, not for me,
Yeah.
And there's been other people like that too. It's like, it's good, but I think, what are you doing with it? Are you thinking about putting a twist on it that you're not doing it now? Like when you're almost trying to lead people into how to make something better, like it's okay, but you need a little bit more. So
yeah, and I'll just go down my list. One of the other ones is claiming you really like whiskey when really what you mean is you really like 5 whiskeys. Because you don't go outside of that. You stay with your 5 and that's it. It's like, oh, I really love these, and you got a whole bunch of those. But there's a difference between, like, you don't say that you're a foodie and then, you only go to Panera Bread and Apple.
Yeah, I mean,
you go out and you explore flavors and you explore different things, and it's going to be hit or miss, but that's part of the journey of it. So saying that you really like whiskey, but you're stuck on a few of them because you don't go out and explore and try things. And you know what? You might try something that you absolutely hate, but it might make you love what you love even more. So isn't that a win? You've explored out and you've made what you love more justified to yourself, for that you can do that. But anyway, that's that one. And one other, it's like, which kind of goes along, it was being ignorant to what's out there. And I showed Pat earlier, I had an example. So I went into my grocery store this week, and they'll do like a basket where they just get rid of stuff. And usually it's full of wine. But I go by there, and in the basket, because no one was buying it, and I didn't realize they had it at the grocery store.
Oh, well, look at
our
that.
friend, the Death Store Gin, sitting in the basket for $10 because people are buying shitty gin instead. And so they had 4 of them in the basket, and guess who bought all 4 of them? So those people all lost out. That paid out for me, but you got something like that they don't know what it is, so they're just going to keep buying the same crap that they always get. Or there's one local one that is, man, stank nasty, full of I think they say it's 18 botanicals, and it is rough. But people will buy it.
Hay? Funk or hay?
What?
Is there's funk or hay like with 18 botanicals? I gotta think.
It is nasty old lady perfume.
Ah, that's like the worst.
It is cheap old lady perfume.
I used to. I that's the one thing, if you're actually allergic to, I didn't know I was, but old lady perfume. I used to get the okay from my mom to bypass the perfume section of like J.C. Penney's or Yonkers or all those old stores. Just get sick. I was allowed to get through. I just start having like an asthma attack, start shutting down.
Yeah. And that. So and my final one that I had on my list, which I think also came up in the chat, was age horse. Because people that have to have an age. Now, I myself have said, like, trying something, because out of curiosity, I wonder what this would be like at a higher proof, or I wonder what this would be like, over time as it gets older. But knowing that I've had stuff under a year old that was fantastic, and stuff that was 2, 3, 4, 5 years old that was also great from that person, but stuff with many years from that same distillery, and it wasn't as good. It didn't have the same life to it. But I think, and I know I have not, me don't talk good sometimes or articulate, but I think that people should understand that I'll use Wild Turkey as an example, because I really like I do like Wild Turkey quite a bit. But Wild Turkey is made to be sold at the ages that it is sold at. It is manufactured to be sold at those ages, because that is where the flavor profile of everything that went into it points to, for those different the different whiskeys that they put out. So yes, you do need to have 6 years, 8 years, 10 years for that stuff. And wow, they had some stuff for 13 and 17 years that ended up being magical, where it was located at everything else. But I think that's also an anomaly, because they have, I think they still only have 2 mash bills, a bourbon and a rye, and that's it. But you've got, Jim Beam White is Jim Beam White. They sell a ton of it, and it's fine, but it's 3 years old, maybe 4. But you put a little age on it, you do blending with it, you end up with Booker's or other stuff. But that's what it was made for. The stuff that doesn't get to age gets sold as white. And I'm paraphrasing, and I know I'll probably be inaccurate on that comment. But you take a craft distiller who is doing something with the barrel manufacturer, what is being done with the barrel, the size of the barrel, how they're storing it, the grains and the yeast and everything they're using, and they can get a really damn good product at a younger age. And people won't try it because they'll go, this is only 3 years old. Like, well, you know what? That 3 years old could have blown your socks off, which again goes back to showing your ignorance.
Okay, when you're going back to the Wild Turkey one and being set up for ages, that is exactly right, because they were set up for ages, and then they ended up having so many old barrels they didn't know what to do with. That's when I apologize, I don't remember who it was. I think it was the distiller at the time, decided to make Russell's Reserve, because they had so many older barrels at that point. They created an entire brand because they didn't think it was going to be good. It turned out being a decent age bracket, but that was past what their age, everything what their brackets were for mostly, and they had way too much. So Russell's Reserve was a whole different section that was created because they had too much old whiskey past what their prime was looking for. Now they filtered that in by doing so.
Yeah,
but those are at ages as well too, for the most part.
But it has to be for that process that they use. It needs to be at those ages to get that flavor that everybody expects. And then I think people are jaded and think that you have to have 8, 10, 12-year-old stuff. And you really, you don't. You just don't. Regionally in the United States, you can get away with things in different regions that you can mimic Scotland in the United States with the temperatures. You can also you can mimic like India with like in Texas with the really high angel share and the evaporation, and your proof goes way up. Your flavors get concentrated, and then you make people line up for 18 hours for a $350 bottle of whiskey. But that's a different story. But the fact that people are stuck on ages, it really bugs me, and I love giving them something that is young, and just don't tell them what it is, and then you tell them. And a lot of times people will still say, "Oh, I wonder what this will be like in a few years." Well, I do too, but I don't hold it against that.
I know, Richie. I sadly don't get mistaken for Aaron Hall.
Anyway, I'm done with my list of rants, so I want to hear yours because I'm.
Well, we touched on a couple earlier. Hold on a second here. What is this? Distiller's age wine. That's true. Yeah. Well, that came into with. There's a couple distilleries we know that when they were making it, I mean, it was like Neely. I knew Neely had good stuff at 2.5 years.
Oh, fantastic whiskey at 2 years old.
Yeah.
18 months old. I
don't know what happens to it primarily after that, because I don't know if it was geared for hitting that mark, but for in that section, it was very good for that point. You know what I mean? Like, but it seemed like it was geared for hitting that section. So, sorry about that. All right. Mine. What are some things I'm upset about? All right. Part of mine leads into marketing and advertising. Hence, with my background, one of the things I have issues with is when I want to say I feel people who know better are lacking or deceptive in information about brands, when in today's world, I don't think that needs to be the case. And I'll go down.
Does that include creating your own historical facts about your whiskey or brand?
Ooh, okay. Well, I get if you're creating. Okay. See that two different things here. Yes, if you're trying to be legitimate about it. No, if you're doing what Glens Creek does about it, where you fictitiously make up an entire character's history that is complete ass backwards bullshit, but fun as fuck to read.
Yes.
Mimicking off, kind of the captain. If you're going to do that,
Glens Creek and the Blom brothers were masters of it. It's like, you know what? You're all full of it. And we're going to make fun of you. And you might not understand that we're making fun of all of you.
Oh, if Don's going over to the Whiskey Crusaders this evening, hey, when we're done, stop over there. Make sure you go check Donald and everyone else over at Whiskey Crusaders this evening. That's awesome. A whiskey and charcuterie pairing. That's fair. That's a good thing to do, because that is. Are you guys, Donald? Before you take off, are you guys doing any particular whiskeys like bourbon or Irish or Scotch? You can open if you're still there or not. It just would be interesting, because I think that might affect the pairing with it. You know what I mean? Like, or your theme maybe. So, all right, back to my complaint, and I'll just get in on this one. And I don't want to sound like I'm attacking someone, but when Forbidden came out, it just, the way it was marketed, and in particular the very first few articles about it were very fluff pieces. Basically, they were what someone was told to put out in a media release, and it was like a little bit of pulling teeth and cloudedness to things. Hard to find it even on the actual website. That mash bill isn't there, but it was like making it seem bigger and more important than what it was. And when you keep pulling it back layer by layer, someone's already used the wheat, someone's already used the rice, someone's already done this. Castle and Kia used the exact same mash bill. They released a 5-year version a year before this one came out. Does it taste the same? Not at all. But at no point were things in this being described groundbreaking. Low fermentation. Once again, if you've watched our show, not something that's that's not new. Using white what was it? White corn.
White corn.
White corn. MB Roland putting it out before them. So a lot of these things just not as groundbreaking. Now, is putting together the recipe or the mash bill for it, the knowledge to acquire it, the knowledge to do all those things. Yes, that's impressive. Nothing taking that away from someone coming up with a recipe, but that's not using totally unique grains that no one's used before. It's just putting them together in a certain percentage. But then that had already been done by her at a different distillery. Yes, sir, Mike. Go.
Well, I ask you a question.
Sure.
As a former marketing person,
Yes.
If you were using the omission of truth as a way to convey facts in your marketing, for instance, using a phrase such as first to use white corn instead, or using first to use this, when really it was a more specific statement of first to use this exact mash bill, or came up with that. So it's an omission of facts. Is that, I shouldn't say is that acceptable in marketing, but would you as a former marketing person consider the omission of facts to be along the lines of the omission of truth?
Something of that line, yes, because you omitted something to make it sound like you were more groundbreaking than what had really happened. And there's nothing wrong with putting what was on there. You know what I mean? That's a great mash bill. You came up with it, fantastic. But saying you were the first to use something, in my mind, leaves yourself open. You know what I mean? Why not use clarifying facts to be accurate? Would be a polite way to say that. I would want the full details of what it is. And that's just, it's just not something I think I could get behind on that nature. So I feel like a lot of it is puff. Okay, the story's puff in the background. Like I said, it's not that the meat of it isn't respectable, but what you blew up was unimportant. And in my mind, in this in particular case, that someone with that background should have known that, should have curtailed this, should have taken control of the situation. This is kind of what we were talking about before, with the rep not knowing the area, your knowledge, your area of what's going on. If you were taken up through all the ranks by them, and you became the master blender and took a year under the belt for becoming a master, so don't tell me they didn't tell you about marketing. Don't tell me that wasn't involved in what you're doing. It's just, it should have been done better. It could have been done cleaner. There was no point in it being as ominous or hidden from what it is. I think what you said, the omission of it is my issue here. Every time there was an omission, if you look deeper, it's not quite true. So why do that to yourself? So things like that bug me because they're unnecessary. And you can go to other brands and other things and you come up with the same thing where it's like, why try to hide things, bring things out? That's the era we're in. We're in the era of bringing out what the reality and the truth is of what's going on. Put the mash bill on it. Put this on it. Have you not learned from Compass Box and other people that this information is what drives people in? I don't know. That type of marketing to me is deceptive, and I take issue with it. But that's because of my background. That's why I'm not in marketing anymore, because so much of marketing and PR went away from what it was into a manipulatory role. And I'm not saying that was here, but trying to manipulate the people and the viewer into getting a certain outcome rather than showcasing your product is my issue with PR and advertising right now. And I think this falls into that. Sorry. That was one of the big ones. Sorry. I just
no, that. I mean, it's a good one, and it's a good thing for for anybody, because you should be
called out on that.
You should, and you should own up to it.
It's
and which I put in the chat, but say if you are the brand, it's you. It's about you, and you should make it accurate because it's about you. And if people say things about you that are not accurate, you should correct them because it is about you and your integrity. And you shouldn't let people run with it. Now, there's a difference between that and folklore from old brands, because come on, I mean, you're talking about things that have just been retold and retold and retold and retold, and things change over time, especially in retellings.
You're resurrecting an old brand,
right? But this is
resurrecting it for the lore. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's mine. Culinary grade corn.
Yeah.
That is intriguing, Dave. You're upset with that? Or is that just food grade corn?
No, it might be tacking on to the stuff that you said. And again, I'm really indifferent to the person, but I think that the marketing took over more than what, because I think that I would give the person the benefit of the doubt to say, I really want to explore these flavors and do this, whatever. That's cool. Play into that. And if the marketing is making it sound like something different, again, it's you. It's you. It's your name. It's your face. You are the brand. Make it accurate. And if they're not doing it, that's wrong. Don't ride with it. You can say, well, no, actually, it's this. Because
correcting
to me, that shows your integrity more. That you're correcting. You're like, oh no, this is it. I did it because of this.
And to be honest, in a few interviews since then, she has made some minor corrections to some things, or cut into it a little bit more so than what it was. But I meant from coming out at the beginning, knowing the industry, I thought it was a bit iffy. Now there's some other big name. There's a couple other ones that kind of fall into that for me too. You know, they're proven now, but like when Old Carter came out, that's you're repackaging MGP. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of blending and stuff on there.
Some blending and stuff in there. But same thing with someone taking a little bit different mash bill and something. And I'm like, but you're coming out at 130, 160.
And I mean, I will say I do have a respect for the people that are able to procure those barrels and blend them and come up with a product that really is great and people love, because they're like, wow, they really are coming out with a great product. And that's great. Yeah. But but I'm priced out of it.
Yes.
So the entry level,
I'm not totally denying out, that quality. I didn't want to say I'm denying the quality or the quality of the work that they do to create a decent product. But yeah, I don't know. It's how much focus comes out of things. I don't know. It's weird how easy advertising can be and how convoluted people make it. In my mind. Sorry. All right.
Well, some people think so. I think you're well.
It could. Okay.
I think if you're doing something different to do the agitation and atmospheric preference pressures and all you're doing, you're not aging, because aging is the wrong word. You are maturing in a different way, because age is an age. Age is a number, and you can't lie about a number, but you can make flavors come out by doing other things to it, which includes sonic aging or whatever, putting a bass cannon next to it and blasting
Well,
Lars Ulrich's favorite hits, but whatever.
You got music vibrating through there. That's kind of cool. It's doing something.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not saying it doesn't work or anything, but you're not aging it.
At least you're doing something.
Yeah, you are doing stuff to the flavor. You're not aging it. So that's anyway. That's just a nitpicky thing that I have. But you're not aging, because you can't cheat that.
All right, I got one more thing that grinds my gears.
Go ahead.
It's people who join a group or even go into any chat or to anyone's page. You all know. And as soon as you make a comment, they pop up and say, hey, guess what? I have a group you can join. And you can buy the whiskey you just had here. And I thought you left making the big screen on purpose.
You pissed me off. No, I'm just kidding.
And you can buy the whiskey here at my store, or you can join this other group to do that. If I want to join your group, I'll join your group. Please stop harassing my fans, the people out there, anyone else. If they're looking for the whiskey, they'll find it. They'll find it on their own means. Stop. Just fucking stop. Sorry. Anyone who has that will understand it. And no, I'm not going to do polka aging. That is that's not happening, Peter. I mean, you guys can give it a whirl, but I don't think I can do that. Oh yeah, see, Scott, that's exactly right. I'm going to be honest. If you haven't picked up on it, it doesn't make you like the people of the show. It just doesn't. Now, it doesn't mean I might not get into it and talk with you and learn that you have this, and then maybe at some point, maybe procure a bottle at some point. But don't come out of someone who just makes a comment and be like, hey, guess what? Hey, guess what?
Yeah. And then, okay,
Paint
you know what? Paint shaker whiskey is not a bad idea, though, because if you took and you did like chips and you put that on there and you had paint shaker, because we know people who've done the ultrasonic thing with chips.
Yeah.
And they don't use the term I'm aging it. They're maturing it and flavoring it and doing that. But man, paint shaker, that would be to do that somewhere. Cool. That would be a violent way to do it and so much fun.
But I mean, and like having the wood staves in there, shaking the shit out of it.
Oh my God.
I'm kind of excited.
That would be, yeah. Or okay, how about this? Okay, using the paint shaker at an event to mix cocktails.
Okay, I could get behind that, but I do think everyone should probably take in a can of or a bottle of booze and ask them to see if they can shake it at Home Depot or Menards.
Oh my God! just take the paint can and just put it in there. And then people they're at the festival and they've been drinking and they lean on the counter when it's shaking, so everyone's going. Yeah.
You know what? I kind of like this idea.
I'm liking the paint shaker. I really am liking the paint shaker. I think that's an unexplored way of doing maturation. And Emily, you should get all the credit for that. 100%.
Yeah. The new way. It's the wave of the future. Just make sure you give her some credit.
We need an innovator like Mr. Peter Nom. Well, it's too late for Peter. Maybe not, but he can go in there and say, hey, you guys are up here. You want to try something fun? Would you like to try our paint shaker Manhattan?
Ooh, the paint shaker Manhattan sounds actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like this.
I really do think this is a good idea. I think everyone should tell everyone about Emily's idea, and she should get all the credit.
The Sherman Williams 15-year-old. All right, I'm gonna sip in.
Yeah.
All right, I didn't realize how late it was. Do we have?
And you know what? I'm doing something anti, which is not really. It does grind my gears a little bit. People that try to drink good stuff all night long. Once you've had a couple, taper off, switch to something else. I started off with a really wonderful thing from Whiskey Thief that's fantastic, and then switched on to leftover sample of Buffalo Trace and Eagle Rare, because it actually tastes fine. It might taste better now after having the Whiskey Thief leftover in my palate, and nice residual flavors and stuff going on in there, and all what's left over in the glass, using that same glass over and over again.
All right, hold on here.
Kevin's already looking up paint shaker machines, 149 from Harbor Freight.
That's it?
I'm telling you.
You know, I hadn't cleared the bourbon on the banks thing because I didn't think I could make it work that weekend. But I mean, there's paint shaker martinis.
It should be paint shaker everything.
Well, then you need like 3 or 4 of them. Be like at Patoka Lake with the wine slushies. You could have the paint shakers on the other side going.
I think that if you're a brand rep and you say things that are incorrect, they should duct tape your hands to the paint shaker and then turn it on.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, Scott's one of my best friends, and came down and we did. It was a lot of samples.
Sometimes you gotta kill them. That's.
But I sent them through stuff which you should do when people come over, share things with them and have things. If you're giving someone a tasting, you give people a tasting of things that they haven't had, and things that they need to explore, and things that you're proud of. And so we ran through Glens Creek, and we ran through Glens Creek items. We ran through some French Lick stuff. What else did we run through? I got to think about this. Some iron root. Anyway, there was a lot, because you're supposed to share, and it always tastes better when you share it with people.
That's true. That is very, very true. And I just realized what time it is. And like we said, we probably let you guys go here. Whiskey Crusaders got a show. Donald's over there. It's always good to see him. Stop over there and see those guys.
Always see those guys. And also, I'm going to shill for them. Whenever, God, they should be opening their place up pretty soon if it's not open now.
Yeah.
They're big tasting thing. I'm going to go down there and go see them. But the idea, they've been, mostly Matt has been amassing all these whiskeys, 3,000 or 4,000 bottles of whiskeys, and putting in an education place, and a place that you can go and say, I want to do samples. But it's a big thing is educating. So if you want to learn about things, you go down there north of Dallas, or right in Dallas, and learn. And you're going to learn from 3 really, really damn good people who are all on the SOM program, but also are very nice.
Mellow, relaxed people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're learning, you're gonna find your vibe with one of them. You know what I mean? It's good cover.
Yes.
That.
Support them.
Yeah.
Support them on Patreon, because we're not doing that.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get in trouble for things. But upcoming shows, we got a couple. When we talked about Tom in here with Peter, we went out to Paradise North, and we're going to be setting up a show with them later in August or early September. They did a little bit different when they started out. You know, everyone goes gin, vodka. They have that. They kind of explored the rum side of things, kind of kicking off. So I just thought that was a neat way, kind of bridge the first couple years to getting some of your bourbon and stuff out, where everyone usually leans pretty heavy in gin and vodka. Like I said, they just went a little different route with that. So I dig that. We're going to try some of their stuff, and I'll see if I can get a sample of the oat thing for that, because that is young, but like I said, I think it can run. Also, coming up on August 14th, Brian Cushing is going to be coming back, and you should, if you don't know him, go over to the Victorian Bar Room, check out his channel. They haven't been doing quite as many things as they were before, because they are in the middle of finishing up an absinthe documentary. But if you see some of the stuff on there, you can understand the quality and what's going to be coming out in that documentary about absinthe. hopefully when they get done with that, we'll have them on, maybe do a watch party like we did with the Alan Bishop experience, because it's a neat spirit, not a lot about it, and learning about it from kind of the get-go and the spirits and cocktail side of things from it, I think is a very good perspective.
Yeah. And also the way he's done from a historical point for not just absinthe, but the cocktails that they've done, because there's still there's a lot of episodes of cocktail recipes. Yep. And knowing that when they say not necessarily the measurement, and the measurement might be a glass. Well, the glasses were different sizes back in the day. And so that means that things tasted differently. And Brian talks about, well, they use this, and the closest approximation to that now is this. So you can taste a classic cocktail pretty close to classically how it was, within reason, given something modern. But he really does go for authenticity on this stuff. And he's had some really tasty cocktails made, and speaking of transparency, tells you exactly where he's getting it, So it tells you it's from this bartender's guide from the 1800s, and it's pretty sweet. So
I think that's where we're going. I think it's a bartender's guide, I think from 1862 or 64, which gets into the first old fashioned. So we're going to start with that. We're going to discuss how that the original kind of dovetails into Sazerac's, Manhattans, and a couple variants there. And also, I think it was a whiskey daisy will be another cocktail we're having. So when we get stuff for a couple of the ones we'll be having in the evening, we'll post those so you can get yourself ready and supplies ready to have those cocktails with us that evening. So
and I'll do one last promotion on this before Wednesday, but this will be fun. And again, go back, follow the Alchemist Cabinet on Instagram, and go back and listen to Alan's other rants about things that people say with it, because it's funny and true, But these, some of the words, 7 bad words of whiskey and music. No, they're not swear words, but it's still going to be fun. It should be. They're always a good show with on there, and it's two of the nicest people and good friends. So
if you find his rant about Master Distiller, it is fantastic.
Yes, it's serious. You know how I know you're not a Master Distiller?
It's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right. Well, we just wanted to thank everyone in the chat for hanging out with us this evening and going over some of the things that make us upset in the industry. Just need to do a little venting every now and then and get that out of the way. So, thanks for being with us this evening. We're going to keep in check with some of the cocktails coming out, because that's, like I said, I'm really looking forward to that one with Brian. It's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind, and we'll keep you abreast of anything else that's coming on. So remember, it's not the size of the den that matters, but the love of whiskey. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
What?